Welcome. I'm AJ Alvarez. I'm the Director of LATAM Marketing here at Symphonic. And today with me, I have Jordan Mafi from Beatport. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here, actually. Jordan is a curator with Beatport. She is the former executive editor of Nest HQ and also a former host of Insomniac Radio. Currently, she curates a number of genres, including dance electro pop, dubstep, hard dance, hardcore, and so many more. And she's also a curator in her own right, launching her monthly hardcore playlist series, Serious Damage, last year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And she is a graduate with a bachelor's degree in journalism from San Diego State, University. And she continues to find new methods of storytelling for the electronic music community, which is what we're talking about today. So I'm very excited to have you here. Seeing as we only have 15 minutes, I'm gonna jump right in. That's okay.
Perfect.
So much of the conversation at the DSPs where visibility is concerned is around playlists. Driving this conversation is the notion of discoverability, where the audience is first encountering the music. Beatport stands out as playlists per se are not a discovery point on the platform. Where are some of the interesting spaces on the platform driving artist discovery at the moment?
So I'd actually argue that the playlists on Beatport are a discovery point on the platform, but they're not called playlists, they're called charts. So I think I'm not exactly sure how many artists know about creating charts and what that does. But every week as a curator, I create multiple charts for each of my genres, including the best new music for each genre. We have a weekly marketing campaign. It's a different theme every week. So like peak hour tracks, closing essentials, future classics, and more, where we create a chart for each genre as well. And we are always creating Beatport link playlists, which are designed to be used for DJ sets. And so at Beatport, curators are encouraged to feature the best music, regardless of whether the artist is a big name or not. So we're often adding new and up and coming artists to our playlists. For all of our best new music charts, we add those same picks to Spotify. So those artists can be featured there on our Spotify account as well. We currently have about 150,000 followers on our Spotify account. And we've got 30 different playlists on Spotify for each of the genres as well. So I'd say that we are a discoverability point on Beatport itself. I think that people need to just navigate it and see charts and be like, oh, those are just playlists that are made on Beatport. And so, like I said, as a curator, we're able to feature anything. I've seen artists that I've put into like the best new big room Spotify playlists. They reach the top 10 in the big room charts, and they have never seen that level of support before. So I think that's a good example of what artists can achieve on Beatport and on our Spotify playlists.
Totally. How do you feel that artists can maximize on their ability to reach fans in those spaces, the chart space?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, if artists are releasing music on Beatport, they should always be promoting the release on socials and providing a link to the release so their listeners can actually purchase their music on Beatport and they can move up in the top 100 charts. And so after they release a new track, new EP, new album, artists should always make a Beatport chart whenever they release new music on the store. Charts are essentially artist curated playlists, and they should include like the artist's new release, plus some of their favorite music at the moment. These charts are featured in various areas of the store. I absolutely love it when I see an artist coming out with a new release and they add like 30 tracks to the chart, and it's perfect to be used for people who just want to know what they're listening to right now and to check out their new release. And if the artists are added to our Spotify playlist, it's always great to share the playlist on social media to kind of shout out like, hey, Beatport playlisted me.
Totally. I actually just thought of a question. Are labels able to create DJ charts as well?
They can actually. So whenever labels create charts, I think it's great if they make a Beatport link chart. And so that's to be used with our monthly subscription DJ streaming software, Beatport Link. It's fantastic when the labels can feature their artist roster in a chart. But even then, I feature label playlists in the genres if I ever get any great ones. So yeah, absolutely. The only thing is labels don't exactly have too much creativity when it comes to their profiles. So I'm not sure if their charts are linked to their profiles, but label profiles should have all of the releases from the label, and we'll feature them in the different genres. Yeah.
Nice. What kinds of tools, maybe outside of charts, are artists able to use to be active on the platform? And where can they go to get started with those tools?
I'd say if you're an artist releasing on Beatport, you should always make sure that your artist profile is up to date with a fresh bio, your latest press shot, that sort of thing. You can always email Beatport support and we can update those for you. And before even getting to promoting your release on the platform, artists should always work with their labels and distributors to make sure that their release titles are free of spelling errors, their release artwork doesn't include any inappropriate imagery. In addition to the music being great quality, this is the best way for an artist to get a great feature on the store, just because it kills me inside when I hear a great song that's maybe in big room and the artwork is like a really inappropriate image of a woman who's naked and it just doesn't quite make sense. So it's always good to keep that in mind. And as I mentioned before, the artist curated charts are a great way to be active on Beatport. It's super easy to create. Anybody with a DJ profile on Beatport can create one. That's basically just when you sign up with a username. And I'm, not a professional DJ or anything, but I even create charts under my personal profile just to share the music that I like. And then making sure that their charts don't use the release artwork as the image for the chart. Always use a press shot or something that's different. It's the best way to get it featured on the store, or else it just looks like another release. In addition to that, Beatport goes live on Twitch multiple times a week, and we absolutely love to see artists interacting with the Twitch chat when we're live. It's a great way to talk to fans and show up for their online DJ community.
That is so dope. I love that. So is there an area of like marketing or, when an artist is planning their rollout of their release that artists might need to emphasize more, focus more attention on when they're considering, pickup and placement on Beatport, and what helps the new music stand out for you, if it's not the marketing plan?
Yeah, as far as the marketing plan, I know that there are a ton of artists who release on Beatport who maybe don't have teams for this sort of thing, and they might be doing it all by themselves. I'd say that making sure that your distributor sends in a feature request, that's how the curators can see what comes in and what we should feature. So that's a great way for artists to make sure that their music gets considered for feature consideration. Even then, if I don't have a release coming in that's asking to be featured, we look at every single thing that comes into the back end. So we're happy to feature any release as long as we love it. And since I curate the EDM genres of Beatport, that includes big room, electro house, dubstep, future house, hard dance, and more, I'm usually excited to hear something fresh within these genres. And usually the weirder and more experimental the track, the more likely I am to feature it, because that's just what I love. Some people argue that EDM genres are a little too formulaic, they've become stale, but I have watched so many new trends emerge since I started at Beatport, and it's really exciting to see these changes happen in real time. But specifically from a technical standpoint, I'm looking for music that possesses a high quality production standard, such as clean mix down, well mixed vocals, a volume that's not too loud or too quiet. It's important for me to recognize these elements since most customers on the store are downloading this music in order to DJ, and there is nothing worse than mixing in a track that is way quieter than the last track. So those are important, but as I said before, it's really great to be a curator at Beatport because we are not beholden to, the biggest labels or the biggest artists and what they think we should feature. It can be absolutely anything as long as we think it's good quality.
That's great to hear, actually. If artists, find themselves with a little extra time on their hands at the moment, obviously a lot of us are finding that time, what are some things that they can be focused on updating or cleaning up or organizing on the platform to help them potentially connect with new fans or, clearing up their presence on the platform?
Yeah, like I said earlier, making sure that your artist profile is up to date. In addition to creating charts and promoting their Beatport releases on social media, Beatport invites a wide range of artists to join our live stream as performers or as active users in the Twitch chat to connect with their fans. So even just showing up on that front is great. We are mostly doing these streams in Berlin, hopefully soon in LA. So to any LA DJs watching, maybe you'll be next. And Beatport actually also has a music blog called Beat Portal, where we love to highlight artists that are new and up and comers, and they're influencing dance music in a great way. So I'd say to keep up with Beat Portal would be great, but I love when I get to write an article about some of the greatest tracks in my genres that people might have missed. That's when I get to highlight the smaller artists, and especially if somebody is really active on Beatport and making charts, sharing their releases on social media, that usually makes me think like, oh, I really do want to feature this person and give them a little bit more love, you know?
Yeah, that's exciting. So we're closing out here just in just a minute. I want to know, can you tell us something big that we can look forward to from Beatport in 2021?
Honestly, I'm just really excited to watch what's happening with Beatport Link. For those who aren't aware, Beatport Link is a monthly subscription streaming service for DJs. It makes our whole entire catalog accessible to stream audio through DJ equipment. Beatport Link can be used with Rekordbox DJ, Serato, Virtual DJ, and more. Plus, Link is actually integrated with Denon's DJ players, which is great. There is so much more to come with Beatport Link, and I can't reveal too much about it, but it is certainly worth watching for anyone involved in the DJ community. I would love to see what's going to happen with Link in the next few years. It would be a dream to see Beatport Link available in music venues, because you wouldn't even, as a DJ, need to show up with your USB. All of your music is just in your account and your playlists. So for those who don't really know about Link, it would be awesome for you to look into it. I have been having so much fun at home just DJing with Link, and getting a lot better as the weeks pass, since we are all currently stuck at home. So I think that just keeping an eye on Link would be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Jordan. We appreciate all of the insight. I know that a lot of people will be finding some time on their hands to update their profiles and definitely check out Link. Do you have anything else you want to leave us with?
I just say to all the artists who are watching, keep creating music, keep putting out music. It doesn't even matter if you are signed to a label or not. Find a distributor that's going to get your music on Beatport. I just love hearing new music, and it seems like the trends are even changing as we've been locked up at home and people have been a little bit more creative. So I'm so grateful that I get to work during this time, and I get to work a job that I love, and I get to stay connected with the art that I love as well. So just please, please keep creating.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thanks.
All right. Hello, everyone. Greg DeVito here from Symphonic Distribution. I am Manager of Client Marketing and Streaming Promotion. With me, I have Alina Thompson from Pandora. And Alina is a Manager of Artist Marketing and Industry Relations there. How long have you been with Pandora, Alina?
It has been about 2 years almost, year and a half, I guess, almost 2 years.
Cool. And so your role mostly involves managing relationships with labels and artist teams, overseeing release plans for new music, securing marketing support, and educating users on new marketing tools. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you for joining us for our playlisting panel here at Symphonic's Virtual Music Industry Sessions. We have 15 minutes for this conversation, so let's jump right into it. So for this first segment, we'd like to talk about how artists can build their presence on Pandora, both on platform and off platform. So what are the best on platform practices that artists should be employing to build their presence on your platform?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of great tools that are at the artist's disposal. Pandora really has 2 platforms for the artist to use: AMP, which is our artist marketing platform, and then Next Sound, which is our analytics platform. So AMP has 3 main marketing tools in there that artists can be utilizing as much or as little as they want, completely for free. One of those is the artist audio messages, which are basically like liners that they can do. They get to be up to 18 seconds long, and they can really amplify whatever marketing initiative you have at the time, because you're able to add a URL click-through link, you're able to target by geographic location. So there's a lot you can do with these liners, from introing new music and telling some story behind the song to doing specific tour stop liners whenever we get to do in-person tours again,
right.
Taking them to specific cities. pointing to an on-demand single or a new album. You can attach them at the beginning or the end of specific songs. So you really have a lot of control over these. They're a great way to enhance any marketing plan and any goal you're working towards. The second piece in AMP is featured tracks. And these are amazing. A featured track basically just means that the algorithm is going to cast a wider net with where it places and programs your song. So each artist gets 6 of these a year, and they run for 8 weeks each. So when you go in and do a featured track, it'll run for 8 weeks, and we see anywhere from 20 to 200% increase in streams when artists go in and do a featured track. And in terms of like a best practice, it's not necessarily something we recommend as a release day strategy, but rather we recommend waiting between 4 to 7 weeks before you go in and feature a track. And that's just so the algorithm has a little bit of time to see where the song's performing well, who's thumbing it up, who's thumbing it down. And then after a few of those weeks go by, it'll have a lot of data, and it'll just be a more effective featured track opportunity for you.
Cool. That's great. We love Pandora AMP here at Symphonic. We include some information on it in all of our marketing plans for artists. So always giving it a shout out. So a couple more questions on AMP. One, that's available to any artist, correct? They can go to Pandora AMP and log in and get access regardless of their label or distribution setup?
Yeah, and every artist has access to AMP. You can go to ampplaybook.com, and that is like the holy grail hand guide of everything and anything AMP related. It will show you how to get access to your account. It'll walk you through the liners, the featured tracks, how to do those, best practices. And it'll also tell you about Pandora stories, which I should have mentioned is also a free feature in AMP. Those are like hosted playlists that the artist can create and go into stories behind their songs. They can pull in their own music. They can pull in any song on Pandora. So they could do a Pandora story about the songs that influenced their upcoming album and talk about, George Strait and Loretta Lynn or whoever they want to pull in to that Pandora story.
Very cool. And yeah, like I said, we encourage all of our artists to take advantage of those great marketing tools available through AMP. Do you feel that the platform is being used by most artists? Do you think it's underutilized, some of those tools? Just curious on Pandora's side, because it's something we're always, encouraging our artists to use.
Yeah, I definitely think it's underutilized. I try to tell as many people about it as I can, especially since it's free. It's definitely something where the artists who are really actively using it, I think we definitely see them get out what they put into it. So it's absolutely something we want everyone to take advantage of. It's very, very simple for independent artists who don't have a whole team around them. And then people who do have entire teams around them, that's great. They can probably even, make it even more effective because they can be a little more invested in it, but it's a very user-friendly platform.
Cool. Yeah, we love it. So what are some off-platform strategies that you would recommend to help artists then build on Pandora?
I think using their platforms to help push to Pandora, right? So like their artist social accounts, their websites, really remember that you have an audience at Pandora. So including that in different link trees or icons on a website or social posts so that your fan base who's there can click off to that and go to their account and listen there. Pandora also allows everyone to listen on demand for free. So if you have a paid membership, you don't have to listen to ads and you can still function on demand. But if you are in the free tier, you can still listen on demand. You just watch like a 30-second ad first. So when artists are promoting to the platform, they could link to an on-demand song and know that everyone is going to be able to go through that link and listen to the song.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. And then I guess part 2 of that question would be, what have you seen work really well in an artist release campaign that's captured your attention, whether that's either on platform or off platform, something clever with the audio liners or something you saw, on their socials that helped drive people to Pandora. If you had any specific examples, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think in terms of the liners, something we always see work really well, and even our research team has kind of flagged to us, are the intro liners. The artists introducing a brand new song, giving a few seconds of like context behind the song and what it means, and then asking for that thumbs up. So, hey, I'm so-and-so, you're about to hear my new song, X. It's about blah, blah, blah. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. That we actually see longer time spent listening and higher engagement rates in terms of thumbs on the song that has that type of intro liner. I think it probably taps into that listener relationship of this artist is asking something from me. They want me to give it a thumbs up. That's such an easy thing I can do for them. I think it kind of starts to build that relationship there. It catches them in their listening experience and lets them know it's a new song. So they probably won't recognize it, but maybe they're going to be invested enough to listen and check it out and not skip it if they don't recognize it. So that's definitely something that we see work time and time again. And then also the Pandora stories, like the artists who get really creative with those and come up with fun themes to build them around, who continuously edit them because they can continue to edit them while they're live on platform and build them and grow them and push to them on socials. I think it's such a unique piece of content that artists who are really creative with those, I think, see a difference too.
Cool. That's really helpful. And you've already sort of answered my next question, I believe, but it was, what do you look for within the Pandora ecosystem when seeing, like, whether you want to add a track to playlists or bigger playlists or stations? So obviously the thumbs up is so critical. Are there other metrics that, Pandora is paying attention to while considering, any sort of editorial features, any sort of editorial support for an artist track?
Absolutely. We're looking at a lot of different things, but thumbs is huge. It's huge for us. That means a listener stopped what they were doing, picked up their phone and thumbed up your song. Right. So it's a great tell on what is reacting. So we definitely are looking at thumbs up percentages, but we're also looking at completion rates and skip rates. We're looking at, where the algorithm is pulling in an artist music on different artist stations. We're looking at, how much on-demand activity is there. And we're also looking at things like our predictions charts and our trendsetters charts, which are both algorithmically populated and kind of help call attention to artists who are really standing out and popping on platform. And then just, we see the artists who are hustling too and who are calling out Pandora on socials and have us on their website and are really driving traffic there and are using AMP. All those things are things that we see and look at as well.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's something that gets overlooked, those individual DSP shout outs and how important that really is, and to drive traffic to one place sometimes. And outside of the link trees and feature FM links that everyone uses, those are great landing pages, but like, it is still so important to just drive traffic to one place. And I know that's important for you and your role. So it's something we also always include and mention to our artists when they're releasing. So an artist gets playlisting, they get some big station ads outside of the basics, pushing on socials, email blasts, like we've talked about. Anything within the Pandora platform that they can do? So again, like audio liners, anything else that they should be aware of to just help continue to promote those sorts of features within the Pandora ecosystem?
Yeah, I think if you're starting to see programming placement on a specific track, whether it's a playlist or a station, take a look at AMP and see what you have running on that song. Do you have an intro liner? If not, it's a good time to add one because it looks like that song is going to see, an increase in streams now that it has editorial placement. Maybe looking at a featured track timing. Have you featured it yet? If not, maybe you should feature it in the next couple weeks as it starts to get this, bigger placement and more streams. So I definitely think when you start to see a song get editorial placement, go in and look at what you have running on it and what you can do around it. Can you add a liner? Can you feature it? Obviously, again, socials, pushing your audience there to hear it. Those are all good things to look at.
Cool. Yeah. And again, another plug for the AMP playbook. It's something I've spent a lot of time with and we share. So yeah, that's ampplaybook.com, right, is where artists should go. And there's tons of information and resources on all of these features that they can take advantage of once they have that access.
Yeah. And I should also mention too, in Next Big Sound, there's a red follow button on your profile. It's in the top left corner. And if you hit that follow button, that's how you'll get email notifications if your song has been programmed. So if you're added to a playlist or a station, you'll get an automatic email notification letting you know. So that's a great tool to utilize as well in Next Big Sound.
Great. Yeah. Really helpful to know. Heading into just the last segment here, just some questions that we've gathered from artists, managers, and some labels we work with. The first one we have, so if a release has been out for weeks or even months, but say it hasn't received any sort of editorial features, stations or playlist ads, is it possible it could still be picked up if it's been out a couple months? And if so, what's most valuable in the consideration at that point? Is it one big item like a TV performance or, some real radio traction, or the further removed from a release date, are there a number of factors that sort of are a checklist for you and your role that need to be considered before like going in and adding a track? That's a question we get pretty often from a lot of our clients.
Yeah, there's absolutely potential to still get editorial placement after the fact if you don't get it on release week. So I definitely don't want people to be discouraged there. And I would say on and off platform, both places, we're looking at music. So we're going to be looking on platform and see if something's raising its hand or standing out. You know, did an artist show up on predictions or trendsetters? Is the song reacting? Is there, you know, data behind it that's standing out to us? And we might go and program it. Our curators might add it to stations or playlists that it wasn't in before, or maybe they didn't program it right away and they see the kind of reaction on platform, so they give it some editorial placement. And then off platform too, maybe a song is going viral on TikTok, and that's how it catches, you know, our curators' eyes. So they're definitely looking everywhere. I think on and off platform, there's always that ability to make noise with a release, even if it's, you know, weeks or months or however long removed from its release date. I think maybe the only thing you would miss out on would be like a new country now, like a new release playlist opportunity if it released a month ago and is discovered and edited and programmed later. But really, yeah, no, there's absolutely still that chance. So I don't want people to feel discouraged if they don't get that placement right out of the gate.
That's really helpful. I mean, we get, you know, on release day, everyone has that excitement and anticipation, and everyone wants to see a whole ton of support and playlisting come through right out of the gate, you know, on that Friday on the release. But, you know, we know it's a long game, and as long as you've got the right strategy, you know, we always tell our clients, you know, be patient. You know, we really believe that if things grow, especially organically with the track, and if you have a team around it as well with PR, radio, whatever, that's great as well. If there's some traction off platform and some other places. But yeah, we say if a track's going to perform well on the platform, usually it ends up finding its way, I believe, right, to playlists or stations if people are giving it the thumbs up and you know, sharing on socials. So that's something I know that is paid attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. A couple more questions here. So do curators and editors want to hear specific suggestions for playlists or stations in their pitches? So this is something we get a lot of feedback when someone's sending marketing drivers in, and it's helpful sometimes for us just to really dive in and understand the music. But a lot of times they'll, you know, artists or clients say, hey, can you please reach out to this person and see if they'd consider this for like this very specific playlist? Is that something in your role that you appreciate, or something you prefer to not hear about and just like would rather listen to the music, spend time with the marketing drivers that are submitted, and then, you know, determine whether or not and where it could be placed?
It's such a tough one because really everyone is so different, right? Certain curators might love that, certain curators might not. I think for me and for our team, I think we're always very open to hearing those suggestions. You know, the artist and their teams know their music so well.
Right.
They might have a suggestion on where they think it would be a great fit. I think the most important piece there would then maybe not to be hung up if a curator programs it somewhere other than where you recommend it. But in my opinion, I think suggestions are helpful and honestly kind of shows that you know our platform. But my advice there would be, if you are going to suggest a playlist or station, make sure that that playlist or station is the correct one for the platform you're emailing.
Right. Absolutely. That's really helpful. We do get that, like I said, feedback a lot, just asking, we really think it's so perfect for this, you know, specific playlist. Is that information you can share with your, you know, with your contacts and your reps? So that's really helpful to know. So thanks for that.
And we absolutely pass that stuff on too. Like when people are suggesting places to us, we'll make sure the suggestions get to our curators and we'll share that information.
Cool. Great. That's really helpful to know. Last question. What can fans and or artists of Pandora expect to come in 2020 that they should be excited for?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's going to be so many great things coming in 2021. I can't talk about all of them yet probably, but I know this year one of the biggest initiatives we had was launching modes. So modes are basically a further curated listening experience on our stations. So if you're on Today's Country, we now have a female voices mode that you could listen in that is going to amplify female artists and play female.
Yeah, really cool.
If you're on our 80s rock station, we have a crowd favorites mode or a deep cuts mode. So you can decide, like, do I want to hear the hits and songs that I know, or do I want to discover and listen in discovery mode or deep cuts mode? So this has been a huge launch for us. We're very excited about it. So I think 2021 is going to have a lot of larger initiatives around those modes with artists, and I'm excited for those.
Yeah, that's cool. It seems like a really unique feature.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and it's been fun to watch those get built out over the last few months. We just launched a Today's Country Christmas mode that we're excited about, so it'll be great for Christmas music and things like that too.
Cool.
And then I think, it'll be interesting to see when touring comes back and what that looks like. Obviously, this year has been interesting for everyone in terms of shifting things. We did a lot of virtual events and live streams in kind of a variety show format that went really well. We're very excited about. We did ones with Kane Brown and the Killers and Charlie Puth. So I think going into 2021, we'll have more virtual events and variety style events in that lane that will be exciting. And then hopefully pivot back to real live in-person shows at some point, but
hopefully, yes.
So it'll be great. 2021, I think will have a lot of fun things to look forward to.
Cool. That all sounds great. Well, I think this information was really helpful. So again, ampplaybook.com, tons of great tools there. And well, thanks so much, Alina, for joining, speaking to us about Pandora. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Have a good one.
Hey, David.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Good. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for Virtual Music Industry Sessions this year, 2020. Very virtual at the moment. I'm AJ Alvarez. I'm a member of Symphonic. I am the director of LATAM marketing. Today we have David Ecker, who is a member of Spotify's US indie team. He works with artists and labels to maximize their presence on the platform. He has been at Spotify for 6 years and was previously a member of the US Majors team, the artist management team, and the artist services team. I think it's safe to say that David knows Spotify pretty well. He's based in New York, and he's also an avid jazz pianist and composer. I can safely say, and personally have had the pleasure of hearing you play, and I think that it's wonderful. So glad to have you here. We're really excited also that you have such not only an inside perspective, but you also have the indie artist perspective that you can give us too here. I know we only have 15 minutes, so I'm gonna jump right in. Since so many are already familiar with the platform, I wanna discuss discovery in relation to playlisting. I believe that we can all agree that the focus on radio spins in the industry in the past was driven by where we believe the audience first encountered a song. That focus to playlists over the past few years, as there seems to be this misconception that it's the driving force of music discovery at present. What are some of the lesser known areas of discovery on the platform, and how can artists ensure that they're maximizing on their abilities to reach fans in those spaces?
For sure. So I think just for starters, to state the obvious, playlisting is a very important way or a very, I would say, convenient way of reaching a lot of people very quickly. I think that not acknowledging that is doing a bit of a disservice to artists. But I also think it's not the only way, and I think that when you make it on a playlist, it is not the golden ticket that a lot of artists and labels, quite frankly, sometimes think that it is. It's really important when you make it on a playlist, or when you don't make it on a playlist, to have a devoted, dedicated, lean forward fan base that will actively seek out your music, whether or not it continues to be on playlists or was on playlists in the first place. So that being said, I think that some of the actions that artists can take, the most powerful action, in my opinion, is the follow button. It's not only one of the stickier actions in the sense that people rarely unfollow artists,
right.
But it's also an action that directly impacts things like Release Radar inclusion and Discover Weekly inclusion, as well as some of the radio features on Spotify. So, making sure that your fans are hitting that follow button, are making the leap from other social media platforms to Spotify is a really powerful way that artists can build their fan base, whether or not they're on a playlist.
Definitely. You actually touched on something that's, an interesting trend, and not only a trend, but a cornerstone of artist marketing, and that is socials and how that impacts, getting fans and activating them, bringing them to the content. It's a whole different line of discovery that exists. How are you seeing indie artists successfully activate their fan base on socials, be it IG or TikTok or Facebook even, and what are the tools that Spotify has to integrate so that it makes it a little bit easier for the artists to get their fan base over to their Spotify page or to their content there, of course?
Yeah, definitely. So, first off, as you mentioned, Spotify works very hard to create integrations that make that transition seamless. So, one of I think the best integrations we have is with Instagram, and the ability to link out from Instagram stories to Spotify, to a Spotify artist page, to a Spotify playlist or an album, and this is in the share menu, of any track, playlist, artist. It gives you the option to share to Spotify stories, and this is a way to use Instagram stories to link back to Spotify without needing to have a verified Instagram profile or have a certain number of followers as required to do the swipe up functionality. So I think that's something that we really work very hard to create, and I think is very useful. Same with Twitter. We have Twitter audio cards where you can embed and listen directly from Twitter. I think with newer platforms like TikTok, it really is in some ways the Wild West, because a lot of artists and labels are seeing music blow up on the platform and thinking, well, what does that mean, right? How do I translate that not only to Spotify streams, but also ticket sales when God willing we can all go out to shows again. I know I miss them immensely. So I think that artists and labels are saying, well, what does this mean? And I think that Spotify is in a very beneficial and lucky position, fortunate position, where artists, or rather fans, hear a song on TikTok and immediately think, okay, I'm going to go look that up on Spotify. I'm going to go listen to the rest of the artist's music and catalog on Spotify. So I think that happens to a certain degree automatically, but I think it also is incumbent upon the artist and the label and the artist's team and distributor to call that out, to say, hey, you like this track? You've heard it on TikTok. Listen to the rest of the music on Spotify.
You actually touch on something that I'd like to go back to for the artists who are watching. One of the things that we always talk about is your marketing drivers. What are you actually doing to activate your fan base, to have people listening to your content? I know that you have this conversation all the time because we always have this conversation. What are the strong drivers that we could be sharing from our artists? I think there's this misconception that like, hey, we're gonna be going to radio, and that's like where it stops. I think there's a lot more than just one or two things that you can be doing. There's so many things. So what are some examples of good, strong marketing drivers?
I think the biggest thing, the biggest way that artists can pick the right marketing drivers, because that's really what it's about. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Different marketing drivers and different different facts and figures and statements and pitches work for different folks. Not only within the broader ecosystem, but within Spotify. And I think that the biggest thing that an artist can do is the actual research piece and the listening piece. and building that intelligence, that information around, well, what will be the best drivers for this circumstance? What are the opportunities that I am, that I'm positioning myself for? And I think, by the way, that is beneficial not only when pitching for opportunities like, marketing or press, but also when thinking about playlists and pitching for playlists in the Spotify playlist pitch tool. Understanding the landscape, understanding, well, if I'm in this genre space or in this cultural space, what does the landscape on Spotify look like editorially? What do these playlists look like? What are the opportunities? If I'm pitching for a playlist that doesn't exist, maybe I need to rethink the way that that I'm pitching this and take into account what the ecosystem is like, what the landscape is like. So I think that's actually the most kind of underrated, advice that I would give to finding your proper drivers, is actually do the research. Listen more than you put out information. Actually absorb information, and see, okay, well, what are the opportunities that I'm pitching for? If I'm pitching for a playlist that exists, what kinds of things are featured on that playlist? How can I position myself as an artist in a way that is similar to those other artists? If all of those other artists are massive on social media or TikTok or whatever, then include those stats. If all of those other artists are artists that are artists that have been touring constantly and are big in the live space, tout that part of your resume. If all of those artists are bedroom producers, tout that part of your experience. I think the data doesn't need to be raw numbers. It can also be, how do I fit with the rest of the artists that exist in the space that I'm trying to position myself for?
Yeah, painting the picture. I like that.
Exactly.
You talk about positioning yourself as an artist. I think one of the stronger drivers, especially when I'm trying to position an artist in front of your team, of course, is, how active are they on the platform? What are they doing on Spotify itself? There are so many tools that artists can use to activate the audience. What do you feel like is the most underutilized tool of them all at the moment?
Well, there's a few. I think, one that I find pretty compelling is Spotify codes. It's a good way to bridge the gap between the physical world and the digital world. You can put them on merchandise, you can put them on vinyl, you can put them on the stage, again, when we can all go to concerts again. And it is a great way to take that physical connection that a fan has with an artist in the real world, in physical space, and translate that into streaming and into follows and all of that. I think another few tools that might be a little underutilized, namely because they're so new, are our promo share cards. This is a relatively new feature that actually creates professional looking assets for artists to share when they're featured on playlists, or to share their album or their artist page. And this is something that I think a lot of artists could really benefit from. I think a lot of artists put a lot of thought and probably probably torture themselves sometimes about, well, which asset do I post, right? I want to show that this track has a certain number of streams, or that it's gotten on this playlist. What do I post? I only have so many photos of myself. I only have so many, pieces of cover art. What do I post? And I think that these share cards, these promo cards, are a good way to do that. I think likewise, we have this tool that's in beta called Canvas. And this allows for 8-second loops behind visual loops behind tracks on the mobile app, and we can actually share that as artists to Instagram. Not only how you used to have to do it, where you shared the file and linked to Spotify, but you actually can share the canvas and Spotify directly to Instagram. So that's another tool that I think is underutilized. Probably the biggest opportunity I see for future growth in terms of artists really engaging with their fan bases is this new tool that we've launched called shows with music, and this is actually talk content that you can integrate music into. So instead of when you used to have a podcast, licensing music for the podcast, having it be a part of that podcast and not counting as a stream, not monetizing the same way that a song does. This actually puts songs that are on Spotify in your show. And we launched that recently. I think that it's a powerful tool for artists to utilize. Any artist that is creating a podcast and uploading it through Anchor, which is a recent acquisition of ours. It's a podcast distribution and creation tool. Anybody that's uploading a podcast through Anchor can utilize this tool, can create a show and include music into it. And it's a great way to build context around your music, a great way to, go behind the scenes of an album, to talk about your creative process. We've actually, started experimenting with it ourselves. Internally, we have some shows that we've launched, namely one called The Get Up with my colleague, X Jernigan. Also, Allison Hagendorf, who's our rock editor, our head of rock, has a show called Rock This. These are obviously big, tentpole shows, but I think that the bigger opportunity for this tool is the more democratic one, and is the fact that any artist that is uploading a podcast through Anchor and that is distributing music to the platform can create these shows that mix music and talk.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for labels there too, because labels have so much like content. They tend to focus in on a certain genre or a certain sound, and this is such a great opportunity, especially for the indie labels, to be able to just find a way to put these sounds together, and even reinvigorate catalog. There's so many different options. I keep calling it radio re-envisioned just because there's so much control for the listener themselves. But I love the opportunity that exists there for indie artists and labels. That's really great. So we have 1 minute. Last question.
Okay. Yes.
2021. Do we have anything to look forward to that you can share anyway on the Spotify platform?
Oh man, yes. I mean, the answer is always yes. Yeah. I think when you think about 2021, I think no one could have predicted what would happen in 2020, right? And I'm not going to pretend to be someone that can predict what will happen in 2021. I hope it's better, needless to say. But yeah, I mean, we're constantly testing new features, constantly, growing the tools that we already have, growing their accessibility. I think that you're going to see, some of these expression tools that are in testing, roll out more broadly. I think that you're going to see more adoption of this, music, shows with music format. I think you're going to see more musical artists creating podcasts as well, and kind of cross-pollinating those audio experiences in a really compelling way. And you're going to see artists be able to engage with their fans in a more meaningful way. I think that those are the kind of macro things that I would look forward to as a member of the Spotify team, and also as an independent artist. I think that, God willing, again, we will also have a return to live music, which as a fan is something that I am very eagerly awaiting.
Can't wait, honestly. Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you talking with us. I think everything that you've brought to the table has been very helpful for indie artists. I think everyone from that angle as well, or that part of the audience, definitely thanks you for being here today. So many thanks, David. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.